In this special episode, we're talking trademarks. You're going to hear from not only one of my dearest friends, but also an expert attorney in the field of intellectual property, Courtney Alvarez. For over a decade, Courtney worked in the United States Patent and Trademark Office as an examiner, reviewing trademark applications and gaining valuable expertise in trademark statutes, procedural rules, and the nuances of the trademark application process. In 2019, she launched her firm, CMA Trademarks, where she is now able to use all of those skills, knowledge, and expertise to help her clients successfully register and protect their brand names, logos, and slogans. You'll hear why getting a trademark for your business is so critically important, and you'll also have a better understanding for the steps you need to take now to trademark your business name and protect your most valuable assets. Looking forward to sharing this one with you, and it all starts now. I'm Kara, and welcome to Soul Inspiring Business. I believe that all of us possess unique gifts and talents that allow us to serve the world and our own growth in the highest possible way. Our lives are an expression of our thoughts, beliefs, and actions. And here, we will explore businesses, thought leaders, and topics designed to inspire, helping propel your own growth so you can live your best and most purposeful life. Welcome to Soul Inspiring Business. Welcome back to the Soul Inspiring Business podcast. Today is a very special guest. We go way back and actually have known each other since we were 18, so she knows all the stories. But today we have my dear friend and trademark attorney, owner of CMA Trademarks, Courtney Alvarez. So Court, welcome to the show.
It's so great to be here, Kara. And before we get started, I really got to say, congratulations on your 100th episode. That's like a really big deal. And I feel like I was kind of here from the very beginning. Like, I feel like it was just yesterday where we were just talking in a coffee shop and you're like, I have this idea for a podcast and I want you to check, see if the name is available. And I brought up my phone in the coffee shop. And by the way, this is 5 days before the world shut down because of COVID.
Yes,
and we didn't even know what was about to happen. And I checked real quick and just did a cursory search on my phone as best I could. I was like, it's looking good. I want to do a further search, but this is looking great. And to all the listeners out there, if you know Kara, you know when she has an idea, she's going to follow through and she's going to do it. And so to see her come this far, and the podcast has been absolutely awesome. I love listening, Kara. Your guests have been phenomenal, and I've learned so much. I loved especially your most recent guest, the branding guru. That was very in step with what I'm doing. So I'm going to keep him in mind to refer some clients to, because that's the creative part of all this that I don't do. I'm the legal, boring part, but what a great resource. So just congratulations. I'm so proud of you. You deserve it.
Thank you so much. And actually, it's funny because you're right. We were at, so for listeners, so again, Court and I go way back. We've known each other since our college days. We met freshman year of college. And we were doing a little reunion at a spa. Little did we know, of course, that the world was going to shut down 5 days later. And yeah, we were, just kind of talking, and that's how it all was born. So you really have been here from the very beginning. And I'm so really thrilled that you can, join us today. And I have so much respect for all that you do and the work that you're doing. And because many of our listeners are also in the entrepreneurial space, and really, sometimes the small business owner especially can feel there's a lot of overwhelm that comes with that, and feeling like, where do I go next? Who do I turn to? Like, who's the right person for these ideas that I have, And so I was excited when you said yes to being on the show, because you have such wisdom and your attorney brain, which is very different from mine, which is why we complement each other in many ways, and so analytical and so perfect in what you're able to do and how you're helping people. So I'm excited for people to know more about you. And so as we get started, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about how you were kind of called into this work and your story, because You now have a boutique firm that really helps people in the trademark space, but you were so well prepared for this because of your background. So help people understand that a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how far back you want me to go, but I didn't always think I was going to be a lawyer. I mean, does anyone, honestly? But I didn't grow up even knowing any lawyers in my middle class upbringing. It didn't, no friends with parents with lawyers, anything like that. So it wasn't even on my radar. And it wasn't until I was very single focused in college. I always, as you know, wanted to be in news reporting. I was a broadcast journalism major. And from my experience in working in a television station in my high school, which was very lucky, we had a state of the art one. And it's just where I found my passion, and I just kept going with it. Every summer, I was interning at Philadelphia television stations and just, really diving into that field. And it wasn't until senior year where I had to make some tough decisions, honestly. There was some things can you get burnout even though you've done internships? I don't know. I was getting a little burnout on. It seemed a little bit more, I guess, superficial than I wanted out of my life. I remember having a news reporter tell me at my last internship, like, I need to cut my hair. My hair was too long to be taken seriously in the field of news reporting. And I was like, what? She's like, maybe entertainment reporting, but definitely not hard news. And it's, as I'm sure people know, it's a hard field. You have to really be willing to go out and after you graduate and work in the tiniest of small markets, move to South Dakota, gradually work your way up. So it was like, okay, do I want this life? And at the same time, I met the person I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with, which, came to fruition, and I'm still with him now. But, do I want to leave this person and start this journey for not much pay at all? And just a lot of, it's really hard work. I give many people credit who can go into the industry, but it was at that time I was like, okay, I'm not really feeling it anymore. And at that same time, my then boyfriend, now husband, and best friend were both preparing to take the LSAT. And it kind of fell in their laps as well. It was a bad economy when we graduated. And my now husband was doing it to just further bolster his finance degree and try to be more marketable in 3 more years when things were looking better. So he's sitting for the LSAT, studying for something he really, has no intention of ever really being a lawyer. He's still thinking finance. And he's like, why am I doing this when you're the one that seems to be love school, love studying, you love a good outline, you have, you're detail-oriented, perfectionist tendencies, you love learning, like all this stuff. He's like, you're much more suited to law school than I am. And at the same time, I happen to be taking a media law class at Penn State. So I really, really loved media law, and that was really interesting and a good intersection of my journalism background with law. And so I took him seriously, and I was just like, maybe. At the time, it was too late for me to sit for the LSAT when he did, but I ended up following that path, and a year later did. And that's kind of what put me on the journey. And when I was in law school, it was also the journalism background that pushed me towards classes like First Amendment law. And that's when I learned about this field called intellectual property. And I studied about trademarks and copyrights and patents and all of the things, the umbrella that goes under intellectual property. And I loved it all. I ended up graduating with an intellectual property certificate from law school in addition to the JD, which was really cool. And it showed my focus in the area. And from there, it was just kind of, luck that I had a friend that graduated a year above me in law school that got a job at the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And she's like, I can't obviously just pull strings and get you a job here, but I can at least let you know when there's openings and give you a good in as far as what they're looking for and things like that. But it's the government, they either, want you or they don't. So, you have to pass through the red tape. So I ended up starting almost right out of law school. I had to wait till they had a job opening for about 6 months where I did some contract work. But soon thereafter, everything, really worked out. And I became a trademark attorney and examiner for the United States Patent and Trademark Office outside of DC in Alexandria. And it was that job that really started, my legal career. And they just are wonderful at training you for the job. You're in like this 2-month program and you learn, you don't have to come in with any trademark background. They are ready to teach young attorneys or older. The training classes were filled with all different ages, honestly. And they teach you everything you could ever know. And they give you mentorship for the first 2 years. They don't want you going out on your own because these are important decisions to either approve people's trademark applications or deny them. And from there, it's really the beginning of how I learned trademarks inside and out. And I ended up staying there 11 years. And that's when I made the decision to, 11 years later, to, go out on my own and hang my own shingle and decide to do this on my own time, making it more flexible than I could have ever imagined, which has been great for my family and just for, my life in general.
Yeah. Well, and I think that what I love highlighting too on the show is that, it takes courage to take that step when you're in something comfortable and then know when it's the right time to kind of leap to something new and a little scary, when you're making those decisions. I recall,
Very,
you were ready, but you were also kind of scared, right? What was
very.
it within you that just knew it was the right time?
So it was a little bit of a nudge because I was in a position where at the USPTO, in my final few years working there, I was able to work a reduced schedule, a part-time schedule, which was important at the time. I have 3 kiddos. 2, as you know, joined my family through international adoption. So they came home as toddlers. And it was very important for me at the time to spend as much time with them as possible because I missed out on so much. And so by doing that reduced schedule, it really was great for our family. Unfortunately, around 2019 or 2018, I was reading the writing on the wall. They were getting rid of the part-time positions, and that was not going to be a possibility any longer. So it's when I sat down with my husband and we had to decide, like, am I going to go back full time? Am I going to search for, a different legal job? Or should we take the leap and have me try to start my own law firm and see how it goes? And honestly, he is my biggest cheerleader. He is the one that really thought this was going to work out just great. He's the one with the entrepreneurial mind, and it was never me. And this is right up his alley. So he just really, he pushed me and said, I can help you get things going a little bit, just in the way of a checklist of what you need to do next. And, but this will be your baby and this is yours, but I think it's going to work. And so with that, I said, goodbye to the government and started my own thing. And, when you start a law firm, I feel like a little bit of a cheat of an entrepreneur because because it's transactional law and I can do it from home, and I still do. And I don't have to meet clients in the office. It doesn't take much overhead. I already had the knowledge and the training. So, when we talk about starting my own firm, it didn't need too much to get going, as far as just, the basics, the website, the business formation, getting the client software, the billing in place, and, all that stuff, of course. But I didn't have a lot of overhead like some entrepreneurs truly do. So I feel like, a little bit of a fake in that respect of an entrepreneur.
Well, as you can tell, Courtney is very humble, and but I think that even with that, there is still a leap into the unknown. And I think what's really brilliant about some of the things that that you mentioned too, when you are kind of taking that next step, and something I'm sure our listeners could benefit from as well, is number one, knowing that when you get the nudge, when there are things that seem to be unfolding, a lot of times we talk on the show using intuition and kind of understanding when it's right to close a chapter and enter another. And so those are the nudges that you start to get, and then decisions are made. And then you just kind of, have been really, when you look at how you've almost been groomed in your path, right, into being the best expression of you and being able to help people in a really big way. This background of you being in the US Patent Office has really prepared you so well to be able to know the ins and outs of how to best advise people and guide people when they're talking to you now, right? Because you're like, well, I've been there. I know what they're looking at. I was an examiner. So you can really, I think, help them save time, save money, because you're able to give them guidance versus maybe somebody else, who doesn't necessarily know how something's going to work or if something's going to work, might tell them, sure, we could submit this. But you're not there to waste people's money or their time, right? You're there to help guide them so that they have a successful outcome. And I think that's what's really great about, what people get when they work with you. So I would love to dive in now to just trademarks as a whole, because honestly, I I get a little confused on what's the difference between a trademark? What's the difference between a copyright and a trademark? Why do you need the trademark versus not maybe needing a copyright? Can you just kind of give us from a high level into intellectual property perspective, what's the trademark? What does it protect you for? Why do you need it? And how does it differ from some of the other marks or from
Uh,
some of the other
Yeah,
pieces?
absolutely. By the way, trademark law is so fun. I mean, I don't think you can find a more fun area of law. Like, I know lawyers get a bad rap in the legal field, but like, I mean, as you can see, I'm about to tell you, trademarks are all about brand names, logos, and slogans. That's what I look at all day. That's what I'm analyzing. Like, how fun is that? Like for a lawyer, I mean, come on. So that's what it is. I mean, so every company, you want a brand name that distinguishes your brand from another, and sometimes you have a little logo that goes along with it, whether it's like an image or just a design. And then slogans. A lot of people want a tagline, whether they're a fast food company or they're a software company. You want a little tagline, and that's worth protecting as well. So all those things are trademarks. And there's a really, really small part that I'll just say there's some weird ones. Like, for example, you could trademark a color, very, very hard. But like, for example, the UPS brown, that brown, or the USPTO, what I always, yeah,
UPS?
UPS, yes.
Oh yeah.
They were able to trademark that brown. So there's a very rare instances where you could trademark a color or a sound, like the NBC ding, ding, ding. They were able to trademark that sound. But these are so I'll just put that, like, trademarks have a couple more applications, but really we're thinking brand names, logos, and slogans.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when somebody's thinking of, I've got this idea, I think I should probably get it trademarked. What's the step by step between like the idea and the actually getting it trademarked? Like, what things do you have people think through when
Right.
they're starting to think about their company and what they want to create?
Right. So ideally, people would come to me when you did, Kara, like at the very beginning, okay, where it's like, I have this idea for a podcast, but I want to check the name, make sure it's available, make sure I can get a federal, a federal protection. So what I'm getting people at the end of this is the R in the circle. That stands for registered trademark. And that means you have it registered with the USPTO, and it covers all 50 states. In just this country. There are trademarks that work globally. That's a different animal. But when we're talking about the basic trademark, the R in the circle, we're getting it for the 50 states. And that is the best time to think about this at the very beginning. Now, do a lot of businesses do that? No. Many businesses come to me when they're like, I started this business either 6 months ago, a year ago, and I was talking to somebody and they said, you really need to get that protected. You need to get a trademark on your brand or on your product name or something. And that's when it gets a little hairy, because, I can't move mountains for them if it already is going to be a non-starter. So that's when, I'm probably the meanie, but it's better that I'm the meanie than the USPTO 9 months down the line being like, you can't have it. So that's when we have to kind of figure out. And, there are some creative solutions, but really you should be coming to me when you did Kara at the very beginning. And there is, and this could be before your business comes even to fruition, because there is what's called an intent to use application, meaning it's just an idea in your head. You have not made any product, you have not provided any service. It's just an idea in your head. And that is very important because you can get your filing date in there. With the USPTO, it's first to file. So you have the earlier filing date. You're going to be the first one to use this mark if someone else comes along. And so that's really important. But if you're already using your mark, then you would do a use-based application. But yeah, I mean, these intent to use applications are out there, so people should use them, and they should check that a name is available before they start to invest such precious time and money. So that's kind of the crux of that. And what should they do before they even talk to an attorney? I think that was one of your questions as well. Before they even come to me, I tell people, I offer free consultations, 10-minute free consultations, just to be like, look, I don't want to jump on the USPTO register database and see that it's a mark that like somebody has like completely 100%. It's your name was Soul Inspiring Business. Someone has Soul Inspire Business, maybe not for a podcast, but for maybe a radio show. That's so similar. It's like, I don't want you to pay money for me to find that. You could find that. Before you come to me, do your due diligence, hop on USPTO.gov, hit trademarks, search trademarks. They make it really easy. They just streamlined their searching. They have a new database website, and it's easy enough. You type in the words, combination of words, and you can see what else is out there. And I want clients to do that before they come to me, or during my consultations. I say, go do that, and then I will be happy. If you think everything's good, then I will be happy to do a proper clearance search and get into the nitty gritty, because, I'm going to use my expertise of analyzing. It's a balancing test for likelihood of confusion, and that's what they're looking for. It's comparison of the marks, how closely they are sound. Do they mean the same thing? Is their appearance? And then the goods and services, how related they are. So people are always like, oh, nobody else is doing what I'm doing in this sphere. But it's like, okay, they might not be doing exactly what you're doing with that brand name, but is it related? And a lot of my clients, they, like to fight me. Well, this isn't related because of this. And I'm like, but the USPTO is going to say it's related. So, those are the things we work through. But I'm here for the, decade of experience I had at the USPTO, knowing what marks are going to be considered similar and what services and goods are going to be related. But before that, you can do the easy part, and that way you save your time and money before you go down that road.
Yeah. Well, and I think, it really is, to your point, because I remember we were looking at things and, just making sure, because before you invest a lot of time in a logo, development of a logo, like website and buying URLs and going all that the way down that path, right? I think to your point is contact early, because, maybe there is a variation that you can use, or maybe it might change what you want to call yourself, because, why spend all this money if then it can't be, trademarked, right?
Exactly.
And I guess it depends on the overall goals. Like, what kind of businesses would you say would benefit from the trademark versus not?
I mean,
I guess everything.
I can't think of one that would not, honestly. Sometimes if individuals are using their own names, they don't bother. Like if you're a famous person, that's, you're using your own name to promote your goods or services, maybe it's not necessary, because, someone can't just come in and take it. I mean, they could try, but it would be hard, right?
Well, if you've got somebody that's named Oprah that tries to go after Oprah, that's probably not going to.
It's not going to work well. So,
yeah.
But Everyone. It's not that expensive to protect your brand. It's really not. In the scheme of legal services and, government fees, it's not that expensive. So it's really a step that that everyone should take, because it's just going to prevent a headache down the road. Okay, so maybe you don't care if you get a federal registration. Let's just say, you like flying, by the seat of your pants and play loose, and you don't mind. But what happens if you're 2 years down the road and you get a cease and desist letter because somebody else minds and they're like, no, so you have to check, even if you don't want to file one, which, would be kind of silly, check to make sure you're not infringing on somebody else's rights, because you're going to get a nasty gram saying you have to stop. And all of a sudden, your brand is out the window that you've been putting on all your goods, or you've been, labeling with your services. So it's really just a good investment for any entrepreneur, any business person that's wants to be successful, honestly.
Well, and also thinking about it even longer term than that, like what happens if you may not care, but you go to sell the business? It's a lot more valuable when you have that mark there, right?
Absolutely. Intellectual property are assets. Trademarks are assets. So this is a business asset that can be sold with the company. So if you don't have your T's crossed and your I's dotted, and you don't have your, nice little certificate from the United States Patent and Trademark Office saying it's yours, that's not going to be valuable at all. And that's going to be that's going to be not a good thing for the company wanting to buy it, being like, wait a second, you don't even own your intellectual property. So yes.
Yeah. So now we know, best time is to get in touch with you first. Obviously,
or just do a general search yourself first, right?
Do a general search yourself.
Do a general search yourself. You can go on USPTO.gov, you can search, and, only when, you think. And the other thing you want to be doing is, people are very proficient in going on the internet and searching and using Google. You want to make sure you're checking everywhere, because there are companies that don't know to get a federal registration. So they might not be in the database, but it would still be a problem if they're out there operating in the space you're operating with a similar mark. So, because they would have prior use if you just started, even with common law rights. So that's what we were talking about earlier with that anyone can slap a TM after their mark. That just means they're asserting common law rights, and that's really isolated to a geographic area. So it's not smart to rely on common law, but it does exist. So if you need it, you could, and someone could also say you're infringing because they already have common law rights. So you want to get on the internet, you want to search this thing up and down, backwards, forwards, and make sure there's no one operating in the space. And, trademark law isn't black and white, so you're never going to be like 100% safe, right? But you can do your due diligence, and that's what it's all about. And so after you search the internet, after you go on the USPTO website and you check yourself, then it's smart to contact an attorney. So can people do it themselves? Of course, there's LegalZoom, there's places like that, but there has been many studies and many statistics that you are far more likely to get approved if you use a trademark attorney that knows what they're doing. And by that, I mean has filed over, I'd say 100 plus applications, to be honest, because it really is, a field where the more you do it, the more you understand what their balancing test is, what they're looking for as far as, likelihood of confusion refusals with other marks that are already out there. So, that's when you want to contact someone who knows what they're doing, because it will pay off. It really will, because you won't have the headache of getting denied.
Yeah. That's so true. And again, it's about protecting yourself in the future and, thinking about if you're going to be investing a lot into your business, this is in the whole, not a huge amount of cash outlay. So actually just walk us through kind of the process. So somebody then does decide they want to contact an attorney, generally speaking, what can they expect in terms of timeline, process? What does that look like?
Right. So generally there's kind of two steps. Every attorney is going to want to do a clearance search. So that's the first step, where we are then doing a deep dive and we are performing a trademark clearance search. And we're going to generate a legal opinion letter telling you the risks associated with that said brand name or logo or slogan. and letting you know what we think your chances are of getting approved. And, maybe highlighting any marks that, might be problematic, and just so they're on your radar. And then you kind of balance and you're like, okay, well, I feel comfortable moving forward, even though these are the risks you outlined. Or maybe you don't feel comfortable and you want to start from the drawing board. So at that point, if you're ready to move forward, then you just move into, the second step, where you're actually gathering the information you need for the application, the attorney's preparing it and filing it. And then starts the wait. I always tell clients, because they're always like, well, when will I know? When will I know? And unfortunately, before COVID, it was a lot different. There was only about a 3-month wait from the time you submitted the application to the time it crossed an examiner's desk, and you got a good idea of whether or not it was going to get approved. And that's how it was pretty much the 11 years I worked at the USPTO. And then came COVID, and everybody was at home, and when they had time on their hands, like you with your Soul Inspiring Business podcast, and
they in a closet. That's right.
And they all had these great ideas, and they inundated the trademark office. So it created this huge backlog. And they are still digging out from that. It was all the way up to 10 months of a wait before it crosses an examiner's desk from the time you filed. And now, they've dug out, I think it's like 8 months now. But of course, they were going to hire all these new employees and it was going to get better. But with the government hiring freeze, that's going to be a problem this year. So I can't promise that it's going to get any better than 8 months, knowing that. But, they're doing their best. So after 8 months, so basically, I do all this work for you, then you don't hear from me for 8 months. And then I say, good news, or they need something else. But basically, an examiner looked at your file and this is where we're at. And at that point, we have a good indication of what's going to happen. And after that, if you filed already as a use-based application, meaning you've already provided them with how you're using the mark and a picture of it on your website, or, how it's being used on a product, if that's what you're selling, then it just takes, a few more months to get the actual registration certificate. If you filed as an intent to use application, it's still just an idea in your head. Then you get what's called a notice of allowance. And that's just saying, go ahead, you can go out there, use your mark, but you better show us in 6 months how you're actually using it. If not, you're allowed to file an extension. They allow up to 6 extensions, which takes you out about 3 years, which is really helpful for people that are trying to still get their business off the ground, especially when you need manufacturers. I have a lot of clients that are just like, oh my gosh, need another extension. The manufacturer delays are still real and da-da-da-da-da. So they really take advantage of those extensions, and it's a nominal fee. So it's great that they offer it. So they basically have, 3 years to get their business up and running before they have to actually prove that they're using their mark. So that's it. There's not much that, goes with the actual process. There are some renewal fees that you have to keep up with at the 5-6 year mark. You need to renew your trademark. But other than that, the trademark attorney's job is, pretty much done by the time you get the registration. Now, they might have to do a little bit more work if it's not allowed outright, and, you have to work on any kind of responses to fight any refusals. But hopefully, if I did my job well at the beginning, that's not going to be the case. And, I'm proud to say I don't have to do that a lot. Only when, sometimes clients are like, I understand there's a risk, but I still want to go for it. And so, I'm happily, hey, examiners have good days and bad days. Sometimes they just want to push everything through. You're dealing with humans and you're dealing with human error. So sometimes it's worth just saying, okay, I told you it's a high risk application, but let's try it. And sometimes it works.
So actually, out of curiosity, what would you say? Do you have a percentage of, out of the things that you thought were going to work, did any of them not? Do you have a percentage of approval rate? I don't know. I'm kind of funny.
I've never crunched the numbers, but by and large, there hasn't been many surprises, put it that way. A couple here and there where they let things through that, because I'm dealing with a client. I want to be, if things seem a little risky, I want to emphasize that, because I want them to know that I'm laying it all out there. So if anything, more things are getting through than I might say in a legal opinion letter, just because I really want to highlight anything that might come up. And, once in a while, so, because I worked at the PTO, I kind of can figure out that you get a new examiner that is citing or oversighting, right? They feel like everything needs to be a likelihood of confusion. And so sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes no sense. And I was like, I can fight it though. And so, for a client, I'm just like, okay, this makes no sense. Like, this didn't even come up on my clearance search. This is how I'm going to fight it. And usually it gets dropped, no problem. So, that's kind of the advantage of using a former examiner, because they kind of know the intricacies and can do it on the cheap. Like, lots of times, instead of doing a full out like a response or refusal where I'm actually writing a legal brief and having to charge the client for more fees for more, because that's when I do it hourly. Usually my fees are flat fees, but for responses, it depends how long my time is taken on a refusal. And so I don't do them that often, since I don't usually have to fight refusals too much. But, some ways I get around it is just by rewriting the description of services or goods. Like, you can rewrite it a little bit differently, make the examiner see. If you get a little bit more specific, you'll be like, okay, see how these are completely unrelated. This is in the field of this, that they would never be considered. And, and I knew as an examiner, that's what I like to see. That's what we all like to see, where it's just like, just show me how, they're not related. And then I can just let this go. They want to let things go. They don't want to block you. They actually have an incentive to let things go because they get more points. Everything's kind of done on a point system. That's a whole nother conversation, but they're not trying to be, the big meanies that don't let anything go. So it's good to have that background knowledge.
Yeah. Well, that's what I tell everybody. I'm like, if you need to talk to somebody about trademarks, you need to talk to Courtney. So
I appreciate it.
So I guess we'll, and I think this is all super valuable. Again, I actually, people will always ask, oh, I'm thinking of this. I think I want to do a trademark. And so I'm always bringing you up, and
Thank
I'm
you.
really thrilled that we could have this conversation to at least enter, give people a broad stroke overview too of like what this is, why would you want to go down this path, and what it does to protect your business, and also have you as a resource, if they whether they have an attorney, great, but if they need someone, that you're here too as an amazing resource. So what are some ways that people can get in touch with you if they're ready to start that conversation?
Sure. Like I told you earlier, I'm pretty boring. I'm not on social media. So you can just reach me on my little website, cmatrademarks.com. My email is Courtney@cmatrademarks.com. Also LinkedIn, just Courtney M. Alvarez. All those ways are great. And, I appreciate spreading the word, Kara.
I will definitely make sure to include those in the show notes. So for all of our listeners, you'll have all that info in the show notes there. And it's really exciting for me to like come full circle as we kind of started the conversation, and that, Court really was there from the very beginning when this little idea started, and, talking with her, and she was giving me advice on, the different, because it's not just there's like general trademark, and then there's also you can have it for particular uses. And I learned a lot through the process. And so it is sort of full circle to now have you on here and us be in like 100+ episodes, which is amazing. And so thank you so much. I adore you, that, because you're just a really great, kind, amazing friend and human in my life. But I also think you are brilliant and smart. And I love seeing people, operate in their gifts. That's what a lot of this show is about, is how do you really find your gifts and use those to share with others and impact the world and serve your clients and people in a big way. And you are an amazing mind that is so analytical and so, details and all the things that lend itself so perfectly to this type of law, which is fun and exciting because you have the branding piece with it too. But also you've got the mind to really help people think about all these different, ways that they may not have seen it for themselves, and ultimately protect them and save them a lot of money and down the road, from maybe making a costly mistake and investing in something that wouldn't, work. So I think that what your work is very valuable. And I'm so appreciative that not only that you're in my life as a dear friend, but also that you're an incredible resource for the world. So I'm glad that people will get to know you.
Thank you very much. I feel so blessed because all of my friends have supported this endeavor so much for me. And, I couldn't do it without people spreading the word. And between you and our other college friends, it's been so fun. I love helping entrepreneurs. I'm so inspired by them. I'm inspired, of course, by you. But, so many people who contact me, they're just single, just all by their lonesome, and they're like, they have an idea, and, I'm one of the first people they talk to about it, and I can hear it in their voice, and it's so fun. And they inspire me every day. I mean, some of their ideas, I'm like, wow, this is brilliant. I would use this service. Like, oh my gosh, like so many times I say I'm going to offer a 10-minute free consultation, but we're talking 30 minutes later because I want to know more about what they're doing, how they come to do this, and how the heck can I use this service or product because it's a great idea. And, and that's the fun about being a trademark attorney, because one day I'm talking about, fashion, and the next day I'm talking about a software app that can, really help me in my everyday life. So it's been a really fun journey. And, like I said, I didn't start out by thinking I wanted to get here, but somehow I ended up here, and it's really been, been great. And I couldn't feel more fortunate.
Aw, well, I love you. And,
I love you.
and for all of our listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Definitely reach out to Courtney if you have any questions on the trademark side, and you can find her in the places we'll leave in the show notes. And until next time, thank you so much for being with us today. Thanks, Court.
Thank you.
Loved being here with you today, and would love to connect with you more over on Instagram. My handle is linked to the show notes, or you can just type in @Chaffin Donofrio. And I have something special for you as a free gift, my Dynamic Life Journal. This special book has the power to really help you live a soul-inspired life. Go to freegiftfromkara.com. Easy to remember, freegiftfromkara.com. Until next time, beautiful people, sending all my love.